start recording right now? Hello, everyone, to this live webinar about becoming a permanent resident in Canada as an international student. I'll try to discuss very briefly different aspects of the options that you have as an international student to eventually become a permanent resident of Canada. However, I'm hoping to leave this session open to your questions and answer your questions. So before we move forward, let's acknowledge the land. We at Parsai Immigration Services headquarters acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I know that this is an online webinar and many of you may be in different places, but since we are located in downtown Toronto, we read the land acknowledgement for downtown Toronto. Before we move forward, I also introduce myself. My name is Al or Ali Reza Parsai, and I have been a practitioner since January 17th, 2011. I have more than 11 years of experience under my belt. My company, Parsai Immigration Services, is located in downtown Toronto at Sheraton Centre, Toronto. We are actually opposite to Toronto City Hall. I'm an adjunct professor at Queen's University Law School. I teach immigration courses there. I have also been an Ashton College instructor and a faculty member of Ashton College since October 2016. For example, right now, I also teach the Advanced Certificate for Temporary Residents at Ashton College. My students at Ashton are already immigration lawyers or immigration consultants. Our firm has had clients from 55 countries so far. I'm the author of the book 88 Tips on Immigration to Canada, which has been identified as a bestseller several times by Amazon.ca under the immigration law. I have written 1,300 plus articles on the subject of immigration, and I have also taught continue or CPD courses, professional development courses approved by ICCRC, our previous regulator, and some law societies like Law Society of British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and Nova Scotia. What we are trying to, and by the way, just post your questions. I promise I will answer all the questions after my presentation is over, because some of you are here just to see the presentation. I don't want to waste your time by answering questions, but I will definitely get back to the questions and answer them all. So in terms of immigration to Canada for international students, we will briefly discuss federal options and provincial options. Of course, we know that as an international student, sometimes you qualify to apply while you are studying in Canada, and sometimes you qualify after finishing your studies. And for example, you could do your postgraduate work permit, receive a job offer in Canada, start working in Canada, and then apply for permanent residence in Canada. Sometimes some of the international students qualify to apply because they marry a Canadian or permanent resident of Canada, and that person sponsors them to Canada. I don't discuss a sponsorship here because that would be a completely different story. I try to focus on economic immigration in this presentation. So if we briefly look at the federal options, we can look at express entry, which covers Canadian experience class, federal skilled worker class, and federal skilled trades class. We also have some pilot programs like caregiver pilot, agri-food pilot, or northern, rural and northern immigration pilot. And there is a possibility that the government of Canada introduces another TR to PR pathway. They made announcements that they are looking into options to make it easier for international students or temporary foreign workers to become permanent residents in Canada. They have not rolled out those programs yet. They have not announced them yet. It could be some options that will be available through the express entry system, or they may introduce some options that are not among the existing immigration options. We don't want to speculate right now. We don't know what they would be exactly, but at least you need to keep it in mind that there is a chance that tomorrow they will announce something and you can apply through that program. Also, if you do not meet the requirements of immigration to Canada under express entry or under pilot programs, you could also consider immigration under humanitarian and compassionate considerations. It means that you do not meet the requirements of the Act, or for some reason you are inadmissible to Canada, yet you can convince an immigration officer that on humanitarian basis, for example, the hardship you are facing, the best interest of a child, your family ties in Canada, your lack of family ties inside Canada, medical issues that you have and could not be addressed in your home country or establishment in Canada, you deserve to become a permanent resident of Canada and you deserve leniency by an immigration officer. Since HNC applications, just like sponsorship applications, are a completely different story, I try not to uh, basically discuss those options into details. My focus, as I mentioned earlier, will be on economic immigration to Canada. Just to let you know, we are recording this session, and this session will be posted on our YouTube channel later on, so you can watch it on YouTube later as well. So in terms of express entry, as you are probably aware, the government of Canada stopped express entry a while ago. In 2020, by on the last time that they had a draw for federal skilled worker class and federal skilled trades class was December of 2020, and they stopped accepting applicants under those two programs. And then in September 2021, it was the last time that they invited anybody under Canadian experience class. The only people who are currently invited under express entry system are those people that have been selected by provinces, and every other week or so the government roughly invites anywhere between 800 to 1,000 people to apply under the express entry. Remember that express entry is not an immigration option. Express entry is a system that covers three major immigration options to Canada, plus EEPNP, which I will explain it. So the options for immigration that fall under express entry include federal skilled worker class, which is a traditional immigration option to Canada for those people who are highly educated, highly experienced, and they know English or French languages very well, and they can immigrate to Canada under the federal skilled worker class. Since the inception of express entry in 2015, a typical successful applicant under the federal skilled worker class is somebody whose age is roughly between 25 to 31, 32, or maximum 35 years old. That person holds at least a master's degree, and also their IELTS test results are at least about 7.5 or higher. These are not the minimum requirements of federal skilled worker. The minimums are actually lower than these. But in reality, because of the competition, a typical successful federal skilled worker applicant is somebody who is roughly in this area. Now, there could be exceptional situations. For example, somebody may not hold a master's degree or PhD. However, they have a job offer in Canada, and that could assist them boost their points. For a job offer, you could receive up to 200 points, and that really helps you in terms of applying under federal skilled worker program. For Canadian experience class, you need to have at least 1 year of Canadian work experience. That job needs to be paid. It cannot be a self-employed job. And also, it needs to fall under NOC 0A or B. Keep in mind that the government of Canada changed the national occupational classification system last year, and they changed it from the level system that we know, which currently says it's not D, C, B, A, and 0, to a tier system. And the Canadian immigration authorities, they have not adopted the tier system yet, but they intend to adopt it in October or November. If they do so, some of the formerly NOC C jobs, which they do not qualify for federal skilled worker class or Canadian experience class, suddenly become members of a group that they qualify for Canadian experience class or federal skilled worker class. We have a news piece on our website that talks about this issue. Unfortunately, the way that it was promoted by others was as if the government of Canada are inviting these groups to apply for immigration to Canada. That's not the case. It's just that when they make changes to the NOC system, we will see some shifts in terms of which occupation qualifies for Canadian experience class or federal skilled worker class. But right now, we are still using the level system for NOC, and you only could apply under Canadian experience class if you have at least 1 year of paid full time or equivalent of full time uh, experience in Canada under NOC 0A or B. So keep that in mind. And of course, you need to also meet the language requirements. I have an article. If you Google minimum language requirements for express entry in Canada, you will see my article on the first page of Google, and then you can click it. And I have tables that explain what are the language requirements. But generally speaking, the minimum language requirement for NOC 0 and A jobs is CLB 7, which is CELPIP 7, or IELTS 6. And for NOC B jobs is CLB 5. But as I mentioned, this will change in October, November, when the immigration authorities adopt the new NOC tier system. Also, we have federal skilled trades program. The number of applicants that usually apply under federal skilled trades program are very limited. Usually in a typical year, we only have 400 or 500 people that they could immigrate under that program. These are the skilled trades that basically are highly needed in Canada, and it's a shame that we don't accept more of them. But we are talking about plumbers, welders, uh, heavy machinery operators or mechanics, and so on. These are all NOC-B jobs. I have another article on settler.ca that you can look at that. I have actually listed all the NOC codes that are currently acceptable for federal skilled trades. Traditionally, the CRS score for federal skilled trades program is very low. That's why they cannot compete with Canadian experience class applicants or with the federal skilled workers. That's why usually the way that they are picked is either a province selects federal skilled trades and their points, CRS score is boosted by 600 points and they are selected, or in the past, the government of Canada used to hold special draws only for federal skilled trades. and that's how they invited those people to apply. Usually they held 2 draws per year, but unfortunately after COVID-19 everything has stopped, so I don't know whether they will resume that or not. When you enter the pool of express entry, you keep in mind that you receive a CRS score, and with that score you compete with other people. Now for example, we have around 216,000 people in the pool of express entry, and about 63,000 of those people, they have a score of 451 and higher. So if your score is below 450, it's very unlikely you will be selected. There are 2 ways that you can boost your point other than the merits of your application, like your education level or your knowledge of language or having family members in Canada, etc. You can also enhance your points by receiving a job offer in Canada, but beware of not being abused for those job offers. And you also have the option of boosting your points by being selected by province. Provinces have different policies in terms of selecting people who are in the pool of the province. For example, in British Columbia, you enter the BC PNP online system. They have their own point system, and based on your situation, they may invite you. Some of the active provinces in Canada are Saskatchewan, Manitoba, British Columbia, and recently Ontario, that they invite many people to apply under the Express Entry PNP program. There might be some changes in the future for the uh, express entry system. The government is passing a law, and that law allows the minister to select people from the pool of express entry based on their job category, etc. And this means that some of the people that they have lower scores may be picked by IRCC to apply, despite that there are other people that have higher CRS. And that's weird because the very reason that the government introduced express entry was to eliminate that. But, anyways, that's the potential future of the express entry. So, we might see people with lower scores being picked because of their job experience, etc. Some of the pilot programs that exist, they are very active. Probably the most active one is the Caregiver Pilot Program. So if you are currently inside Canada and you start working as a caregiver for a family, or you have a potential employer, then you could apply under the Caregiver Pilot Program. The Caregiver Pilot Program covers 2 NUC codes: home child provider and home support worker. Home child provider is usually a caregiver that takes care of children in a family that are busy, they cannot take care of their children. And home support workers usually take care of people that they have some medical issues and problems, and they really need somebody to take care of them during the day, administer their medicine, provide them with food, etc. These 2 programs, they have caps. Usually the child caregiver provider or care provider reaches cap fairly quickly. This year, for example, just after a few days in January, it was full. But home support worker usually extends to the end of the year and accept applicants. You need to do educational credential assessment in Canada and showed you have at least the equivalent of high school diploma, 1 year of, sorry, post-secondary education. You need to have a job offer, and you also need to do the language test, and you need to show that you are CLB 5 or higher. If you meet all of those minimum requirements, then you can submit your package to CPC in Edmonton, Case Processing Center in Edmonton, And if they approve your work permit, you may start working as a caregiver in Canada. And after 24 months of working as a caregiver, you will be able to apply for permanent residence. The work permit that you receive is an open work permit, but limited to the NOC code that you have applied. So this means that you can work for any employer, not just the employer that initially gave you the job offer, but you need to stick with NOC 4411 or 4412. We also have other pilot options like rural and northern immigration pilot. We have certain regions identified by the immigration authorities. You need to have job offer from an employer from those areas. Whenever you want to apply for any of those pilot programs, visit the IRCC website. Make sure that that program is open right now, and then try to find a job offer over there. And if you find an employer, then you may be able to apply. Keep that in mind. You don't want to allow people to exploit you, so make sure the job offer is real. The same thing is for agri-food pilot. If you are an agriculture worker, but you did not receive your work permit under the SOP program, SOP is Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, an agreement between Canada and Caribbean countries plus Mexico. And those people who come to Canada with sub work permits, they can remain in Canada for a maximum of 11 months. So they do not qualify for agri-food pilot. Agri-food pilot, you need to show that you have worked for at least 1 year under a qualifying job, and then you may apply for permanent residence. We also have, we had last year the TR to PR or temporary resident to permanent resident option available to certain international students. However, the government introduced that only once. There is a slight chance that we will have another variation of TR to PR in the future. It depends on how the government decides to do so. But unfortunately, TR to PR last year was a huge mess. We still have applicants that they submitted their application and they have not even received their file numbers. Yes, despite more than 1 year has passed since that TR to PR. Whether they will accept more applicants in the future, I don't know. In terms of provincial options, you need to know that Quebec is different from the provinces and territories in Canada. So Quebec has an agreement called Quebec Accord with the government of Canada, which allows them to accept many immigrants to Canada through their own programs. And you can visit their website. Most of those programs are around bringing people who are francophone. If you are not a francophone, the chances that you can immigrate to Quebec drop significantly. But with other provinces, usually they accept both a francophone and anglophone people. And if you know any of those languages, you can apply. All the provinces and territories of Canada, with the exception of Nunavut, they have programs for immigration. Usually, their programs fall under two major categories. One category is the express entry, and the other category is the pure provincial program, if you will. With the express entry, you first enter the express entry pool, and then after entering the express entry pool, that province will pick you from the pool based on their own criteria, whatever it is, and you need to check that out on the provincial website of the province that you're living in, and see what is their criteria for express entry PNP, if they do accept express PNP, express entry PNP. And then if you are selected by provincial province, then you receive up to 600 points in the pool of express entry, and that qualifies you for an invitation to apply, and that's how you apply and become permanent resident. But with pure PNP applications, you apply directly to the province based on the criteria they define, and each province has different criteria. And then if you meet that criteria, you will be invited to apply and eventually become a permanent resident in Canada. Here I have just some examples of the options that are available in Ontario. These could change at any point in time. But right now, we have some employer job offer options for international students and temporary foreign workers in Canada. So, for example, the foreign workers stream, the international student stream, and in demand skills stream. And then we have an option if you do your master's degree in Ontario and you are CLB 7 or higher, then you will be able to apply for immigration through the master's graduate stream. There's huge competition around this one. So your chances of being able to apply under this program are not high, but it is a possibility. But with PhD graduate stream, first of all, we don't have language requirements, and also the competition is low, and there is a huge chance that if you graduate from a university in Ontario and you receive your PhD, then you will be able to apply through Ontario. Usually people who apply under this program are people that they just all their years of living they just studied, so they don't have the work experience to apply under express entry system, or nowadays because of the fact that the express entry system is still in limbo. The government intends to start invitations in July, but we don't know when in July and how they make those invitations. Also, Ontario has human capital priorities stream for certain jobs or a skilled trades stream, and they also have special programs for French-speaking skilled workers that they allow francophones to apply for immigration to Canada. If you have a entrepreneur experience outside Canada, you could even apply under the entrepreneur stream. However, the province of Ontario will accept only 100 applicants under the entrepreneur stream in 2022 and 2023. So as you can imagine, the competition around the entrepreneur stream is fierce. But if you qualify, you receive a work permit first, then you start a business in Ontario. They will review your business and management, and then after that you receive a certificate of nomination, and after that you become a permanent resident of Canada. For pure PNP application, it's always something like that. The government of the province will review your application. If everything is in place, then they will issue a certificate of nomination. That's when you need to apply directly to the federal government for your permanent residence, and you become a permanent resident of Canada that way. So eventually the decision maker for your permanent residence is the federal government of Canada, not the province. Even with the Quebec system, it's like that. After you receive your CSQ, which is the certificate of nomination by Quebec, and after that, you have to apply directly to the federal government to become a permanent resident. And as international students, when you become permanent residents of Canada, you usually have been in Canada for a while. And in most cases, after 2 years of becoming a permanent resident, you are eligible to apply for citizenship and becoming a Canadian citizen, a naturalized Canadian citizen. Okay, now it's the time for a Q&A. I will look at the chat box and answer the questions. Just remember that we publish news on our website every day, everything that happens in the world of immigration. We publish news, and those news are published by our journalist, Andrea. She works really hard to keep you all up to date. If you just visit settler.ca and click the news button on top of the website, you can see those, or you can just key in settler.news in your browser and it will redirect you to our news page. And if you want to see the articles, almost all of those articles are written by me with some exceptions. And you can just, again, go on settler.ca and search for the articles or click the articles menu to see a comprehensive list of those and find the article you're looking for, or type in settler.info. In general, settler.ca is your source of information about immigration to Canada. And of course, if you want to hire me to assist you, we can set up consultation sessions, or you can fill out our assessment form. And then based on that, we come up with potential solutions for you and we go ahead from there. Okay, so let me take a look at the questions. And if you have more questions, just feel free to type them in the chat box, and then I will get back to you and answer those questions. So the first question I see here is from Behnaz Sagatzadeh. I have recently graduated and applied for a PGWP. Can I apply for express entry at the same time? So the answer is yes, if you meet the requirements. So in other words, right now, because you just applied for postgraduate work permit, you don't have enough work experience in Canada to apply under the Canadian Experience class. As you probably know, the work that you have done outside Canada does not qualify you for Canadian Experience class. And also the work that you did while you were studying in Canada does not qualify you for Canadian Experience class. So if you qualify for federal skilled worker, then yes, by all means, you can apply under the federal skilled worker program, uh, assuming that you meet the requirements. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. So the next question is, where are you offering CPD courses? So in the past year, all the CPD courses that I have offered, they have been through Ashton College. If you visit Ashton College website, they tell you when the next CPD course will be. I think the next CPD seminar will be in late October or early November. And the last time that we did was back in, I believe it was in April. It was a 4.5 hour CBT, approved CBT. I may also offer CPD courses through KPEC or through GSCE and other organizations. Whenever I do a CPD course, Andrea will post a news post about it. It's, where the CPD is running and how. Okay, so do we have access to sessions recordings? Yes, we do. So when we are done with this session, we already are recording the session. And then after the uh, session is over, we will post it to YouTube. But give it a few hours before we actually, because it takes a while for Google to create the video and then for us to upload it. So hopefully tomorrow you will see the video on our YouTube channel. And if you go to settler.ca, on the top right corner of settler.ca, there's a link to our YouTube channel. Or if you just Google me, you will find our YouTube channel. And by the way, join our YouTube channel. We have about 250 videos. All of them are educational, or most of them, almost all of them are educational videos about different aspects of immigration to Canada. I have tried to explain pretty much everything. Very soon, we will resume posting more videos to our YouTube channel. We are just changing our settings for recording videos, and hopefully very soon we will see more videos there. So what information should the job offer include? So and this question is also from Behnaz. By the way, Oladiran, you have raised your hand. So please just post your question in the chat box and I will definitely answer your question. So Behnaz says, what information should the job offer include? The first thing first is that a valid job offer for most programs, if they are federal programs, you definitely need to support it by LMIA or Labor Market Impact Assessment. This means that the employer first needs to go through the process of LMIA, like post the job for 4 weeks at least, and then do the recruitment efforts, and then present the legitimacy documents and recruitment efforts and everything to ESDC and get a positive LMIA before they can even offer you the job. There are some exceptions to this. In under certain exceptional situations, they will actually allow you to apply without an LMIA. For example, when you're working for an employer with an employer specific work permit in Canada and the same employer offers you a job, but initially the work permit was issued exempt from LMIA, then if you work for that employer for at least 1 year, you don't need another LMIA to apply. And if you go on IRCC website or our website, we have mentioned what would constitute an acceptable job offer for express entry. Now, but the job offer letter itself is just an offer. So an offer of employment that the employer writes and says that we're going to hire you for this position with this salary, and it needs to be a job that is not 0A or B, and also it needs to be a paid job for at least 1 year from the day that you become a permanent resident. These are the requirements of the job offer letter. But before you even receive that letter, you need an approval by ESDC. Okay, so here we have. So Fahima A says, talk about new C19 for graduates and TP. So this is a new concept, and I haven't worked on it yet, but I will let you know soon when I have all the details how they can apply. But at the end of the day, this is nothing but another work permit option. It's not about temporary residence. So Gabanga Nasir says, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly. After graduating in Canada, what is the best steps to take as someone who intends to become resident in Canada? So the best step is to become a worker in Canada, receive a postgraduate work permit. That would be the first step that you need to keep in mind. To be able to receive the postgraduate work permit, you need to study at an acceptable designated learning institution. So for a study permit, you need to get a letter of acceptance from a designated learning institution in Canada. However, not every designated learning institution qualifies you for a postgraduate work permit. Generally speaking, you will qualify for postgraduate work permit if you studied at a university, or if you studied at a publicly funded college. So if you go to private colleges after you finish your studies, in most cases, you do not qualify for postgraduate work permit. So be careful with that. The duration of your work permit is usually anywhere between 1 to 3 years, depending on the duration of your studies and the decision of the officer and the validity of your passport. But by receiving the postgraduate work permit, you will be able to remain in Canada, work in Canada, and if you collect enough a number of hours of paid work in Canada, then that could qualify you for Canadian Experience Class or even for provincial programs. And what you need to do, you need to visit the PNP page of your province and see what are the requirements there, and try to meet those requirements within the time frame that you have for your postgraduate work permit. So Oladiran says, what is flag polling and what is the effect on US visa? So flag polling is when you want to apply for a work permit, but you want to quickly receive it. Because if you graduate from school, and then after that you apply online for postgraduate work permit, it could take several months. Nowadays, it could take anywhere between 5 to 8 months to receive your postgraduate work permit. And that's a very long time. So what usually you can do, you can prepare all your documents, and then go to a major land crossing between Canada and the United States. When you reach the US border, you let them know that your intention is not to enter the United States and you are there to flagpole. And what they will do, they will refuse your entry to the United States. The refusal is an administrative refusal. So normally in the future, it doesn't affect your visa to the United States or immigration to the United States. But at the end of the day, it's a refusal. You need to keep that in mind. And then they will send you back to the port of entry, to the Canadian port of entry, and you present your documents to an officer. You let them know that you want to receive a work permit here in Canada. They will send you to the secondary line. They will look at your documents, and if they are satisfied that you meet the requirements of that work permit, you have a complete package, then they will issue a work permit for you. I have a series of probably 5 or 6 articles about work permits, receiving a work permit, and other documents at the port of entry with the help of flag polling. You can also read those articles for more information. It's not always a successful feat for some people. You may go to the port of entry and they do not issue the work permit. They may refuse your work permit. They may send you back and they say, we don't have enough resources to process the application. And funny things could happen. We had rare occasions that a person faced removal order and even detention. Those occurrences are very rare, but at the end of the day, if you do not have enough documentation, it could cause trouble. When you flagpole, your status in Canada must be valid. If it's not valid, don't go to the port of entry. And also keep in mind, when you finish your studies, you are not allowed to work in Canada until you apply for a work permit. So from the day that you finish your studies to the day that you either apply for work permit or you receive your work permit, either of those, in those days between finishing your studies to the day that you apply for work permit, you are not allowed to work in Canada. And if you work, you are in breach of the Immigration Act and subject to an exclusion order under Section 41 sub A of the Act. So you have to be very careful about this matter. So PGWP at the port of entry could expedite your work permit and easily find a job, etc. And then the next question is again from Oladiran, says, if you stay for 4 months and leave Canada, does it affect your entry into Canada in the future? So if you are, when you enter Canada, if you are a temporary resident, the officer at the port of entry will let you know for how long you can stay in Canada. So either they stamp your passport or they give you a visitor record or a study permit or a work permit. And if you have a visitor record, a study permit, or work permit, it clearly tells you for how long you may stay in Canada. If it says that you can stay in Canada for 3 years and then now you stay 4 months and then leave Canada and then come back, your permit is still valid. And you can use that to remain in Canada. But if you're entering Canada as a visitor, they either stamp your passport or issue you a visitor record, or they may not do anything. If they don't stamp your passport, it means from the day that you entered Canada, you may remain in Canada for 6 months. Now, if you remain in Canada for 4 months and leave, nobody blame you. But if you have received a visitor record that says you can only remain in Canada for 2 months, and then you decide to remain in Canada for 4 months, that's overstaying. That's the breach of Immigration Act. That could result into a removal order in Canada. And if you leave Canada in the future, you try to come back, you could face problems at the port of entry because nowadays the immigration authorities, they actually record the people's departure from Canada. They know exactly when you entered Canada and when you left Canada, and you cannot uh, hide it from the immigration authorities. They know that. So Fernando Gonzalez says, I hold a PGWP and have a company in Canada with a significant income from the contract with an international company. How can I get a Canadian experience validated for experience express entry, or what immigration pathway will help me to get the PR? So Fernando, generally speaking, if you are here and you own a business, you are considered a self-employed person. And it means that no matter how much money you make, or for how long you work in Canada, or how many hours you work in Canada, you do not qualify for Canadian Experience Class. However, you could still qualify for Federal Skilled Worker Program, which both of them are fall under the authority of express entry system. In terms of the application options, I cannot tell you based on the what you have explained here. We need to see your points. So you could fill out our assessment form. We can look at that and tell you whether you qualify for any program or not, and how. Because sometimes you could, for example, offer yourself a job. Now, because you're on PGWP, you cannot offer yourself a job, but maybe your English is very good or French is very good, and you also have other stuff that will help you to immigrate to Canada. So the other question is, as a student in Canada, can I travel to the United States? So if you look at this from the Canadian immigration point of view, Canada doesn't care where you travel. You are not a hostage here in Canada. So if you manage or if you want to travel outside Canada and come back, as long as your multiple entry visa is valid, you can easily leave Canada and come back. Even with the United States, if you don't have a multiple entry visa to Canada, but you still have a valid study permit, you may travel to the United States and come back, but you need to solely travel to the US. However, from the United States point of view, uh, the answer depends on the immigration policies of the United States. That's not my area of expertise, but generally speaking, the US government does not give any special uh, options or treatment for international students in Canada. So it basically depends on the nationality, your nationality, and you may still need to apply for a visa to the US, etc. So the next question is from Mariam. I'm a diploma student. And by the way, while I'm talking, Andrea is also posting some relevant links on the chat box, so you can check them out to learn more about different aspects of immigration to Canada. So Mariam N asks, I'm a diploma student and I'm not sure if my points will be sufficient for express entry after a year of employment. Which pathway should I take to be sure I get the PR? So I would say the first thing first, look into provincial options. So depending on which province you are, visit their province's website and see what kinds of options they offer. For example, in British Columbia, we have a tech draw. So if you receive a job offer from approved employers in British Columbia, and that job offer falls under one of the tech draw options, then voila, you can immigrate to Canada through the tech draw system. And we have similar options in Ontario, in Saskatchewan, in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, you name it. We have it. So look into the options that are available through your province and see if you qualify for any of those. Of course, if you want us to do that for you, we can certainly do that. You can book a consultation session with me. Now, Andrea will post my link for consultation session. We actually have a special offer for international students. If you are an international student and you want to uh, book a consultation session with me, you receive 50% discount for the consultation session. But regardless of how much you pay for the consultation, if you sign a retainer agreement with me, we will deduct the amount that you paid for the consultation from the retainer agreement. Thank you very much, Andrea. So if you could also post the link to the special page for international students. I think we have a special link for them. We can post it here. So Mariam says, I'm in Toronto. If you are in Toronto, then look into OINP options. I already showed them briefly on the slide for OINP. But if you go on OINP's website, just Google OINP, Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, and you can see all those options as well. Okay, it looks like that we reached the end of our questions. And what time is it? We only have 7 minutes left. So if you have any more questions, I will happily answer. If not, we can wrap this up. Again, thank you very much for attending this session. I appreciate your presence. I'll do my best to run these webinars at least once a month. Nowadays, I'm very busy with teaching at Queen's and Ashton at the same time. But hopefully in the future, we will increase the number of sessions that we have. We have one more question. I came as an international student working in Toronto. That's a question by Nelly. Again, Nelly, if you're working in Toronto, look into the options on OINP and see what they have to offer to you for PNP options. And then also look at the options under Express Entry System to see if you qualify for any of those. On top of that, as I mentioned earlier, the government of Canada will introduce, at least this is what they say, will introduce some other options for international students and temporary foreign workers in the near future. So we have to wait and see if those options are there. So if my employer is ready for LMIA, will this make any difference? Of course it does. Because if you have an LMIA supported job offer from your employer, you usually receive 50 points, which enhances your points under the express entry system. It could also qualify you for provincial options. Now, for OINP, you don't need an LMIA for the job offer. Your employer must meet the requirements of the province, depending whether the employer is inside Toronto area or outside Toronto area. The requirements are different. We have an article on our website that explains the requirements for an employer who offers a job. You can check out that article. But at the end of the day, if they offer you a job, it definitely can help you. So Anahita posted the special link to the discount for consultation session. If you want to use that one, you receive 50% discount. And nothing was stamped on my passport, but I stayed for 1 month, but left. So yes, Ola Diran, if you entered Canada as a visitor and they didn't stamp your passport and they didn't limit your stay by issuing a visitor record or anything like that, then staying in Canada for 4 months has no negative effect. It's just any visitor to Canada may remain in Canada for up to 6 months unless an officer changes that duration or if they receive a removal order. If none of those happens, then you're good to go. Okay. Now we are reaching the end of this session. Again, thank you very much for attending this session, and I hope to see you soon. And hopefully we will repeat this at least once a month. And after my classes with Queens are over, we will even increase that. Thank you, and bye for now.